She would one day be remembered as one of the most beloved and resilient women in British royal history, a quiet pillar of strength during Britain's darkest hours, a symbol of elegance under fire. But before the crown, before the war, before her legacy was sealed in history books, she was simply Elizabeth Angela Marguerite Bowes-Lyon. Born on August 4th, 1900, in the serene countryside of Hertfordshire, Elizabeth arrived not in a palace, but in the heart of a sprawling estate, St. Paul's Waldenbury. She was the 9th of 10 children in a noble Scottish-English family, surrounded by horses, siblings, and endless mischief with her younger brother, David. But beyond the ivy-covered walls of her childhood home, the world was changing, and so was her destiny. A legacy written in stone and story. Elizabeth may not have been born a royal, but she was born into legacy. Her father, Claude Bowes-Lyon, held the title of Lord Glamis, and later became the 14th Earl of Strathmore and Kinghorn, bestowing upon young Elizabeth the title of Lady. Their lineage was woven into the very fabric of Scottish nobility, with ancestral ties to the royal house of Scotland and legends that echoed through time, like the Thane of Glamis who inspired Shakespeare's Macbeth. Glamis Castle, with its whispering halls and Gothic towers, wasn't just her home, it was her world. On her mother's side, Lady Cecilia Cavendish Bentinck, Elizabeth was connected to political royalty, descending from a former prime minister. Yet, despite these grand connections, her early life was far from distant or rigid. The playful spirit behind the title. Elizabeth's childhood was a blend of elegance and earthiness. She loved animals, thrived outdoors, and excelled in her studies. Fluent in French by age 10 and acing Oxford examinations at 13, she was every bit the scholar, but also the spirited prankster. She and David filled the castle with laughter, not protocol. It was a warm and lively upbringing, one that instilled a sense of balance between duty and delight, structure and spontaneity. But the world outside her bubble was teetering on the edge. Storm clouds over Britain. The early 20th century carried the illusion of peace, but unrest stirred beneath the surface. Labor strikes, growing discontent, and the suffragette movement shook the foundation of the British Empire. In 1913, all eyes turned to the Epsom Derby, where suffragette Emily Davison made the ultimate sacrifice under the King's horse. And in Ireland, the call for independence would soon spark revolution. Elizabeth's world was stable, but the country she loved was not. A war that changed everything. On her 14th birthday, August 4th, 1914, Britain declared war on Germany. Childhood ended in an instant. Glamis Castle became a wartime hospital, and Elizabeth, too young to enlist, found purpose in helping wounded soldiers. She wrote letters, read books aloud, and offered comfort in small but meaningful ways. One charmed soldier scrawled a message in her autograph book, calling her a future queen without even knowing it. But war came close to home. Her brother Fergus was killed in battle, and another captured. The First World War didn't just scar nations, it left an indelible mark on Elizabeth's soul. A reluctant royal love story. By 1919, Elizabeth was formally introduced into society and into the path of Prince Albert, known affectionately as Bertie. He was shy, sincere, and smitten from the start. But Elizabeth hesitated. Twice she turned down his proposal, worried about losing her freedom to the monarchy. Eventually, love won out. In 1923, they married, breaking royal tradition as Albert chose not a foreign princess, but a British noblewoman. Elizabeth laid her bouquet on the tomb of the unknown warrior, honoring her brother and all who had fallen. That single gesture captured hearts across the nation. Duchess, mother, and the voice behind the throne. As Duchess of York, Elizabeth became the heart of the royal family. She offered unwavering support to Bertie as he confronted his lifelong stammer, encouraging him through speech therapy and public duties. A quiet, personal victory later immortalized in the King's speech. She gave birth to Princess Elizabeth in 1926 and Princess Margaret in 1930, bringing life and laughter to the monarchy. But just when they had settled into a peaceful royal rhythm, the nation was thrown into crisis. When history took a sharp turn. In 1936, King George V died, and his son, Edward VIII, ascended the throne. But Edward's love for Wallis Simpson, a twice-divorced American, threatened the monarchy's very future. When he abdicated, Bertie stepped up as King George VI, and Elizabeth became queen consort. The woman who had once feared the spotlight now stood at the center of a nation's hope. Her strength, her empathy, and her quiet determination would soon define an era and cement her place as a legend. A queen in mourning, a nation on edge. In 1938, as storm clouds gathered once again over Europe, Elizabeth faced a personal heartbreak. Her mother passed away. A diplomatic tour to France was postponed as the Queen entered mourning. Her couturier, Norman Hartnell, crafted what would become the iconic white wardrobe, blending elegance with reverence. These dresses quietly proclaimed Elizabeth's emergence not just as queen, but as a style icon, graceful even in grief. Soon after, Hitler annexed Austria. The Munich Agreement, intended to keep the peace, offered only temporary hope. Within a year, the world would find itself thrust into the darkness of another devastating war. World War II, the Queen Who Stayed. In 1939, Elizabeth and King George VI toured Canada and the United States, a journey of diplomacy masked goodwill. Elizabeth captivated audiences, famously declaring, "I am a Canadian." Her charm and sincerity cemented support from across the Atlantic, just in time. After the fall of France, Britain stood alone. In September 1940, the Blitz began. London became a city under fire, and Buckingham Palace was bombed multiple times. Yet the King and Queen refused to leave. When urged to send their daughters to safety, Elizabeth replied firmly, "The children won't go without me, I won't go without the King, and the King will never leave." Her fearless visits to bomb-ravaged neighborhoods, dressed in vibrant colors despite the rubble, lifted morale. Her clothes were deliberate, symbols of defiance and hope. Even Hitler allegedly dubbed her the most dangerous woman in Europe, not for military power, but for the strength she inspired. Legacy of strength. Throughout the war, Queen Elizabeth became a quiet commander of courage. She visited hospitals, consoled the wounded, supported charities, and helped publish the Queen's Book of the Red Cross. Her calm presence rallied the nation when despair seemed close. She led not by authority, but by unwavering empathy. The young girl from Glamis Castle had now become the heart of a country at war, proving that true strength often comes wrapped in gentleness. A shifting world, the end of war, and new political winds. The resignation of Neville Chamberlain in May 1940 shifted Britain's political gears. After years of struggle, World War II finally ended on September 2, 1945. Yet, peace brought change. Winston Churchill, Britain's wartime titan, lost the 1945 election. Clement Attlee's Labour government rose to power, promising sweeping reforms, including the creation of the welfare state. The royal family kept their political beliefs private, but whispers suggested Elizabeth leaned conservative. Curiously, some say she once told journalist Woodrow Wyatt that she had affection for the Labour Party. Even more surprisingly, she reportedly told a family member that she loved the communists, though perhaps not entirely seriously. Despite the public image of composure, Elizabeth was not immune to imperfection. During a 1947 tour of South Africa, she mistook a fan's enthusiasm for danger and struck him with her umbrella, one of the rare moments where protocol gave way to instinct. A royal wedding and a growing family. Later that same year, her daughter, Princess Elizabeth, married Prince Philip of Greece and Denmark. They had been exchanging letters since she was 13. After serving in World War II, Philip proposed in 1946, but the king asked that the engagement be delayed until Elizabeth's 21st birthday. Their wedding took place at Westminster Abbey on November 20th, 1947. Behind the royal smiles, tensions simmered. Elizabeth reportedly disapproved of Philip's background. His sisters had married German nobles with Nazi ties, and his family had been exiled from Greece. Early on, she jokingly nicknamed him the Hun, though she eventually acknowledged his character. The king's declining health and last public moments. The following year, King George VI and Elizabeth planned a royal tour of Australia and New Zealand, but his health faltered. During their silver wedding anniversary in April 1948, the king publicly praised Elizabeth for her unwavering support. By then, he was battling severe circulatory issues. Doctors suspected Berger's disease, and amputation was considered. In March 1949, he underwent surgery to ease the pain. Meanwhile, Elizabeth celebrated the birth of her first grandchild, Prince Charles, on November 14, 1948. She bonded deeply with him, nurturing his curiosity and love for culture. By October 1951, Princess Elizabeth and Prince Philip embarked on a Canadian tour in the King's Place. Their second child, Princess Anne, was born the year before. The King's final public appearance with Elizabeth was in May 1951 at the Festival of Britain, a celebration of post-war renewal. But by September, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. A pneumonectomy removed his left lung. In his final Christmas address, his voice had changed, deeper, slower, signs of the toll it had taken. The death of a king and the rise of two queens. On January 1952, Princess Elizabeth and Philip left for a Commonwealth tour. Against doctors' advice, King George VI insisted on seeing them off at the airport, his last public appearance and the final time Elizabeth saw her husband. On February 6, 1952, the king died in his sleep. The official cause was coronary thrombosis, though he may have succumbed to cancer. Princess Elizabeth, then in Kenya, suddenly became Queen Elizabeth II. Her mother now held a new title, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother. Devastated, Elizabeth struggled to find purpose again. She left Buckingham Palace and moved into Clarence House, a home she disliked. She bought a retirement retreat in Scotland, far from the demands of London. Winston Churchill, now Prime Minister again, urged her not to retreat from public life as Queen Victoria had after Prince Albert's death. And so, she continued, from Queen Consort to Queen Mother. Elizabeth resumed royal duties, traveled internationally, and became the patron of over 300 organizations. She was appointed the first female chancellor of London University and became Lord Warden and Admiral of the Cinque Ports. Her focus remained steadfast, supporting her daughters. She was especially close to Princess Margaret. In 1953, the two toured Rhodesia and Nyasaland, filling in for Queen Elizabeth II. The Queen Mother laid the foundation stone for what would become the University of Zimbabwe, later becoming its president in 1957. Yet her support for colonial education came with controversy. Some accused her of holding racist or imperialist beliefs. Former Equerry Major Colin Burgess denied she made racial slurs, but admitted she was unaware of changing global politics. Historian Sir Robert Rhodes James claimed she opposed apartheid and racial discrimination. The Margaret and Townsend affair. While her daughter ascended to the throne, Elizabeth remained a powerful force. During Queen Elizabeth II's 1953-54 Commonwealth tour, the Queen Mother stayed behind, acting as Counselor of State. Meanwhile, scandal stirred within the royal household. Princess Margaret had fallen in love with Group Captain Peter Townsend, a divorced man. Due to Church of England rules, she couldn't marry him without giving up her rights. Though a compromise was proposed, she could marry at 25 without royal approval, it wasn't enough. When her birthday came, no green light had arrived. Prime Minister Anthony Eden, himself a divorcee, tried to amend the law, but the amendment required that Margaret give up her place in the line of succession. It was too high a price. On October 31st, 1955, Princess Margaret addressed the nation. She spoke of her duty to the Commonwealth and the teachings of the Church. She would not marry Townsend. Heartbroken, she chose service over love, just as her uncle Edward VIII once hadn't. Despite the occasional tension and discord between her daughters, the Queen Mother led a relatively serene private life as a widow. Her lifelong passion for field sports and animals flourished, and as Queen Mother, she had the luxury of dedicating more time to these cherished interests. Her love for horses was shared across the family, with her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, also being an avid admirer. The Queen Mother developed a keen interest in steeplechasing, a thrilling race where horses navigate various fences and terrain obstacles. This newfound enthusiasm was sparked by her friendship with Anthony Bingham Mildmay, the second Baron Mildmay of Fleet, an amateur steeplechaser. In 1949, during a dinner at Windsor Palace, he suggested to the Queen Mother that she purchase a horse to share with her daughter, Princess Elizabeth. With the help of Mildmay's trainer, Peter Cazalet, the horse Monaveen was chosen for the Royals, and it went on to win its first race at the Fontwell Park Racecourse in October 1949, clinching the Chichester Handicap Race. The Queen Mother's horses achieved remarkable success, winning over 500 steeplechase races. She was a dedicated follower of the sport, having race commentaries sent directly to her residence at Clarence House, although whether she placed bets remains uncertain. Alongside her passion for horses, the Queen Mother also had a fondness for angling. In 1982, after nearly choking on a fishbone, which required surgery at the Aberdeen Royal Infirmary to remove, she humorously joked that the fish had sought revenge on her. Another enduring passion was her collection of artworks. While she amassed much of her extensive collection during her reign as monarch, she continued to add to it, forming close relationships with favored artists like John Piper and Edward Seago. She also developed an affinity for artwork inspired by past royals, such as the sketches by Sir David Wilkie for his portrait of a young Queen Victoria. Additionally, the Queen Mother supported artists who had contributed during the Second World War, with her collection including works by Monet, Augustus John, and a number of Fabergé eggs. As her daughter Princess Margaret's love life once again drew attention, the Queen Mother found herself involved in the unfolding drama. In the late 1950s, Margaret began a highly secret affair with photographer Anthony Armstrong Jones, which the Queen Mother was reportedly not only aware of, but possibly supportive of. Living with her mother at Windsor's Royal Lodge at the time, Margaret's relationship with Armstrong Jones grew deeper. In 1959, during a party thrown by the Queen Mother to welcome Princess Alexandra back from Australia, the affection between Margaret and Anthony was unmistakable. The couple married in 1960, and their wedding was the first royal marriage to be televised. Armstrong-Jones received the title of Earl of Snowdon, and their union produced two grandchildren for the Queen Mother, David Armstrong-Jones, the second Earl of Snowdon, born in 1961, and Lady Sarah Armstrong-Jones, born in 1964. However, their marriage was fraught with rumors of infidelity and personal struggles, culminating in a divorce in 1978, marking the first royal divorce since the annulment of Henry VIII's marriage to Anne of Cleves in 1540. Despite the divorce, the Queen Mother maintained a strong relationship with Armstrong-Jones. In the years that followed, the Queen Mother faced increasing health challenges. In February 1964, an emergency appendectomy delayed a planned royal tour of Australia, New Zealand, and Fiji. After recovering aboard the royal yacht Britannia, she continued her duties. She battled cancer twice, first with a colon cancer diagnosis in 1966, followed by breast cancer in 1984, though her health struggles were kept private. Despite these challenges, she remained one of the most dedicated and hardworking royals, embarking on over 40 official royal overseas visits. Notably, she visited Iran in 1975, where her warm, down-to-earth interactions with people from all walks of life endeared her to many. Despite her busy schedule, the Queen Mother always made time for leisure. Between 1976 and 1984, she spent summers in France and traveled privately to other European countries until 1992. In 1981, her grandson Prince Charles married Lady Diana Spencer, a union that would soon attract controversy. Diana's grandmother Ruth, Lady Fermoy, had served as one of the Queen Mother's ladies-in-waiting since 1956, and Diana later claimed that the Queen Mother had become distant and critical of her. Meanwhile, the Queen Mother had her own complicated relationships with her grandchildren, with some claiming she was particularly close to Prince William. Following Princess Diana's tragic death in 1997, the Queen Mother was deeply affected by the criticism aimed at her daughter, the Queen, for not being more in tune with the nation's grief. In 1987, a controversial revelation shook the public's perception of the Queen Mother. It was uncovered that her nieces, Nerissa and Catherine Bowes-Lyon, had been wrongly reported as dead in 1963 by Berks Peerage. In reality, they had been living at the Royal Earlswood Hospital for those with mental disabilities since 1941, where they were essentially ignored by their family. When Nerissa passed away in 1986, it was reported that no family members attended her funeral. However, some family sources claim that the Queen Mother had attempted to reconnect with her nieces later in life, sending them gifts and money for birthdays and Christmas. This chapter remains a subject of debate. Throughout her life, the Queen Mother was dedicated to charitable causes and became a patron of MenCap in 1986, supporting those with learning disabilities. On her 90th birthday in 1990, she was honored with a public parade, and 10 years later, her 100th birthday was commemorated with another parade. Despite her declining health, she continued to perform royal duties well into her later years, even attending a memorial service for her late husband in 2002, despite her injuries. Tragedy struck again on February 9, 2002, with the death of her youngest daughter, Princess Margaret. The Queen Mother, despite her frailty, made the journey to Windsor to attend her daughter's funeral. Her final public appearance came a few weeks later at a garden lunch party on March 5, 2002. On March 30, 2002, the Queen Mother passed away at the age of 101, making her the longest living member of the British royal family at the time. Her passing was deeply mourned, with tens of thousands paying their respects. She was laid to rest beside her husband and daughter in St. George's Chapel. The Queen Mother's legacy is one of resilience, warmth, and unwavering devotion to her family and country. Her efforts during a turbulent time for the British monarchy have cemented her as a pillar of strength. Even in death, she continues to be remembered fondly as a beloved royal figure.